This is Barrels and Barrels, a bourbon and baseball podcast, with your hosts, Brandon Spinner and Michael Burns.
And welcome into Barrels and Barrels, a bourbon and baseball podcast. I am one of your hosts, Brandon Spinner, alongside one of my good buddies, Michael Burns. Mikey, how are you doing today?
Feeling good, pretty good, Brandon. My shoulder after baseball, I pitched recently, and it still feels good.
So did you pitch again?
I pitched last night. I went 3 innings and 5 strikeouts, 1 hit. Can't complain.
Oh, nice. ERA still sitting at a solid 0.
It
right?
is still
With
sitting
2
at a solid
appearances.
0. Yes.
4 innings, so you had 3 strikeouts. That's up to 6. I'm keeping a mental statistic of your season
Yeah,
in
well,
my head.
this is my second appearance. I've got 4 innings, 8 strikeouts.
8 strikeouts. Oh, so you had 5 strikeouts. Okay, there you go. 8 strikeouts. Sorry, math right now is hard because Michael, to break down the fourth wall here, as they say in the show business, Michael and I have had several pours already because we're trying to knock out a few recordings here. So we are, we'll just say we're a well-oiled machine at this point in time.
Viscosity is very well.
4 innings, so you're striking out 2 per inning. How many hits did you say? 3 in those 3 innings?
One per appearance so far. So 2 hits
1 per
so far.
appearance, so 2 hits so far. So, and how many walks?
A walk per appearance.
A walk per appearance. So your whip is 1.00.
No, that's walks per hits per innings pitched. 2, 4.
You said a
you're
walk
right.
and
no,
a hit
you're
per
right. Dang
appearance.
it, you're right. Dang.
Yeah, so I was
So
going to
better
say,
than
you've
that.
got 2 walks and 2 hits in 4 innings pitched. That equates to 4 divided by 4 is 1.00.
Math is hard, like you just said.
Yeah.
So
Hey, hey.
let's get into it, Brandon. Let's get into
Yeah,
the
before
bourbon.
we dive into the bourbon portion, we just talked about baseball, so we just hit the baseball part of our Bourbon and Baseball podcast. We are a bourbon and baseball podcast where we talk about high proof and high heat. So head on over to our YouTube page. You're watching maybe on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button below if you haven't done that already. We've got exclusive content that you can find there, and whether that's in-game video. I had Ellie De La Cruz's first home run, which I saw in person, got it on video. That was put on our YouTube page exclusively there. And then sometimes it's on Instagram and Facebook, where you can find us at Barrels and Barrels Pod, both on Facebook and Instagram. Twitter is Barrels and Barrels. Again, that is the letter N in between those words. And then you can also find us on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, Amazon, Google, and iHeartRadio podcasts. Please rate us and review us. We give our honest opinions of these bourbons. You've heard multiple different ratings all the way from the top of the top. We haven't had one yet at Hall of Fame, but there's All-Star, Everyday Player, Bench, and then DFA. And as you've heard, we've designated several bottles for assignment. So we'd love to hear your thoughts, your reviews, your honest opinions of what you think of our podcast. Head on over to any one of those platforms and leave that rating, leave that review. Right now, we're 15 out of 15 5 stars on Apple, 10 out of 10 on Spotify, as we head on to a new whiskey this week. It is a bourbon, Michael, Baker's 7 at 107 proof. This is your bottle. I think you cracked that earlier this year. Looks like you've done some damage to it already.
I've done some damage, and I have a backup thanks to a good buddy of mine, Jonathan Roy, who got it for me for my birthday as a backup.
So I don't know if Jonathan listens to our podcast, but the best part is Jonathan reached out to me. I don't know if you know this, and he asked me for some thoughts on what to get you for your birthday. And I gave him like 5 things. And then you're like, Jonathan got me this bottle of Baker's 7. And I was just like, those are not any of the 5 recommendations that I gave him.
Yeah, you told me about that. Like, hey, great job.
Yeah, but still, not a. I mean, it's an allocated pour now, and it's becoming harder and harder to find, as a lot of bottles are. So Baker's 7, what you got for me, Michael Burns?
Yeah, so Baker's is, first off, it's a Jim Beam product.
Of course. Yep. For those of you who don't know, not of course, but yes.
Yep. Baker's is named after the grandnephew of the legendary Jim Beam.
Mm-hmm.
So Baker Beam. So Baker's is one of 4 of Jim Beam's small batch collection.
Let me guess.
Do you know? Yeah. What's the other 3?
I was gonna say Knob Creek. Is Jim Beam one of them? No, that's a large batch. So the regular Jim Beam's not going to be one of them.
Right.
Basil Hayden's.
Right.
And I can't tell you the 4th one.
4th one is Booker's.
Booker's. Oh,
So you got the
I wouldn't
Booker's
have
is
guessed
that.
Because I guess it is a small batch.
It's got the
But
similar B, Bookers and
yeah,
Bakers. They got similar B for Beam, probably more of
and Basil
anything.
Hayden's. The only one that doesn't fit is Knob Creek.
Yeah, I would say that this is a great line because Basil
Oh yeah,
Hayden's only 80 proof. It's a great entry level bourbon. That's actually what was my entry level bourbon.
Basil Hayden's and Eagle Rare were my two. I had them at the same night, and I was like, oh, I like this stuff. Yeah,
Oh,
let's
can't hide
dive
money
in
with
more
that
into
Eagle
that.
Rare. Can't hide money.
Nope. I had a friend.
The Booker's is the high end of that proof wise, usually about 120ish,
Hmm.
and then the Knob Creek comes in the middle with Baker's. I think the Knob Creek the
Small
single
batch is a 90.
barrels.
Oh, the
Oh, we're
single
talking
barrels are
small
120.
batch. Single barrels are 120. I want to say the small batches are 100 proof.
Are they?
And I'm staring at my Knob 12. Is that a small batch?
I don't believe so.
No, it's just the regular, which is you're pulling it up right now. It's what?
It's the 9-year regular. So that 9-year Knob Creek comes in at 100 proof. So you're right.
Oh, let's go. Let's
So,
go.
so it goes 80, 100, 107, and then wherever Booker's comes in, and that's always varying by the year and the release.
Yeah, so Booker's comes in right at the middle. What we're drinking today in Asheville is 77 corn, 13% rye, and 10% malted barley. And
So that was
this
what?
is
Can you redo those numbers again?
77% corn, 13% rye, and
Okay, 13.
10%
I heard
malted.
30, and I was like, 77 plus 30 is over 100.
Hey, like
So,
you said,
and then
we've
10%
done a couple
barley.
reviews already. We've had a couple pours. Math is hard.
Math is hard. So 77, 13, 10. Corn,
Yeah, so
rye,
this
barley.
what's really cool about this is their website. It has the serial number, date barreled, and barrel age all on the neck of the bottle. And if you type in the serial number on the website, it takes you through an animation of a barrel rolling down a rick house, and it tells you the exact month, um, the wave of temperatures that this barrel experienced, from the highs
So
and
I like
lows.
that.
Yeah, it tells you the high, and
There's
lows.
a weather portion to that, Michael. I'm nerding out over here.
Yeah, it tells you the humidity too. So like the highest temperature that this reached was 103 degrees and 90% humidity.
Can you imagine standing in that?
Just you'd be just wet
Oh,
in
you-
bourbon. So yeah, that was really cool. The website told you all that kind of information. This I don't know if this is like an unlucky bottle though. So it was barreled March of 13, but it was poured out March of 2020. The 2 weeks about the time the 2 weeks to stop the spread.
Oh,
So this is a COVID bottle.
it's a COVID bottle. It doesn't have the exact date, just March of 2020.
March of 2020 is when it was not. It was that's when it was dumped.
So should we leave this for 2 weeks to stop the curve, to slow the curve?
Well,
You remember that? Is 2 weeks to slow the curve, right? Just
Yeah,
stay
that's
inside. Yeah.
Right,
So
that's
do
what
I
I
have
said
to
about
stay
March.
away from this for 2 weeks and leave it sit for 2? No, just kidding.
Yeah, it
Um,
will evaporate by then. So this is a pretty cool bottle. I think it's got the nice label. It's got a cool topper. It's
it
not.
looks
I
like
don't
a
think
pretty heavy topper.
It's not.
It's not?
It's not as heavy as you'd think.
Is it aluminium?
Yes,
Oh, aluminum.
it feels that way. It just feels like it's covered. It's painted.
It
With
is a
the-
cool, neat looking bottle, and that's that's a different bottle than the previous Bakers. I believe the previous Bakers looked a little more like the Booker's bottle, where it was just more of a wine looking bottle, and then I think they rebranded just 2 years ago. Maybe was it?
2019 is when they
29
rebranded.
Oh, really? Has it been?
And took it from a small batch to a single barrel Bakers.
Oh, so this is a single barrel.
It says single barrel on it, yes.
Alrighty.
But yet it's in the small batch collection of Jim.
Okay.
If that makes sense to anybody out there.
I'm trying to wrap my head around that. It's a single barrel, but it's a small batch.
It's in the small batch collection. So maybe
Okay.
the Bakers was in the small batch collection, and then they turned it into a single barrel.
Okay.
So, anyways, here we are. We got 107 proof, 7 years. Brandon, you're sniffing it. What you sniffing?
Yeah, I've got a lot
Ooh,
out of the nose, honestly. It's got that classic bean nuttiness to it, but I get some cereal, like a grain cereal, some banana, and some cinnamon on the nose. Um,
I get that nanner.
yeah, I got
I get.
more of the nanner out of the right nostril.
I can see that. I tried your game as I splashed some on my mustache here, on my upper lip.
Who wants a mustache ride?
Okay.
I do. I do. Have you
It's
seen the movie
different.
Super Troopers?
I have seen that. I don't remember that scene. I remember.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
great
where he
movie.
takes in the Dutch people
Oh, at the very
who he
beginning.
pulls.
At the very
Yeah,
beginning.
and then they like stay at his house, and he comes in, and he's like, "Who wants a mustache
It's who
ride?"
he arrested. Yeah, it's the
Yeah, and he
couple they
goes
arrested.
in the Danish people or the Denmark people like, "I
Uh-huh.
do, I do,"
I
or
love
the
that
Dutch
movie.
people. Is it Dutch or Danish? I don't remember where they're from, but yes. So you got it on your mustache. I've got a nutty cereal with banana and cinnamon.
Yeah, I definitely get that nutty. I get the nanner.
It kind of the nose, honestly. I think it's a better nose, but it reminds me a lot of the Jack Daniel's Bonded.
Oh no.
Don't. Oh, I shouldn't have said anything.
Oh no.
Michael. Michael instantly went to DFA mode.
This guy now, I gotta sit him down and really give him a talking to.
So you've
Yeah,
had quite a bit of the bottle. Have you taken a sip yet?
it's been a while since I've had this. I haven't taken a sip yet. I do still and sniffing and agree. It's nutty, nanner, vanilla for me. I'll take a sip here.
Yeah. So I just did my first coat. Boy, it's a 107. It certainly enters as a 107, but I don't think it really. I mean,
I don't get a burn out of it.
no, it's a smooth 107.
Yeah.
I know smooth is kind of a taboo word in our industry and in this community, but it's you can taste the tingling part of it. Like there's definitely some legs
There's
to it when
definitely
it comes.
alcohol in this.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's got some legs to it, but it doesn't. You've said it a couple times. It doesn't kick you in the nuts, right? Like this is a 107 that drinks as a 107, but doesn't feel like you're getting pounded by the ethanol and getting pounded by the alcohol as it enters, and really on the back end, it's got a very, very mild and tempered finish to me.
Right. I definitely get like a toasted caramel out of this a little bit. Not heavy, but a toasted caramel with this. There's definitely some oak. A few
Oh
things that
yeah,
we've tried today didn't have heavy oak flavor. I think this is the
mm-hmm.
first thing that I'm finally pulling some good oak out of it.
Yeah. I've written down oak nuttiness with some vanilla and toastiness. Smooth was what I wrote down. I think it's very well rounded.
The flavor that gets you at the end, I think, is the nuttiness. That's what the finish is. I don't get the nuttiness throughout the beginning, but as you sip on it, you let it linger, the nut comes out.
Moving on.
You can tell I stopped.
Moving on. Definitely. I think it's a mellowy finish. Like some of these they build to, like we used the word crescendo earlier in one of our podcasts. I think that this more is mellowy. It doesn't quite build as much. I think it's consistent. I think it's a good pour, honestly. It's not overpowering. This is a higher proof whiskey that I would say you could introduce to someone who hasn't had higher proof yet, right? Like they're entering the whiskey game.
With
Maybe
Basil Hayden.
they've tried the Basil Hayden, they've had the Buffalo Trace, the lower proof, maybe even a Blanton's or something in that 94, and Elijah Craig. Now you bump them up to a higher proof. I think 107 Weller 107 has a little more punch to it than a Baker's 107 does. This is a good pour, and I think this is a good entry level higher proof for someone. I don't know if you're on the same page there.
No, it's smooth
Yeah.
and doesn't punch you. It doesn't kick you in the nuts.
Mm-mm. This is a very enjoyable pour from front to back. I'm going to everyday player this.
There you go.
I've passed up on this bottle multiple times. It's Baker's 7. It's Baker's 7.
When it first switched to the single barrel in 2019, there was a lot of hype behind it. And I remember that's when I grabbed this particular bottle. That's why it's March 2020. And it was a while before I opened it up. I think I opened it up last year. Maybe 2 years
we almost
ago.
opened it up together. We almost opened it up during the Super Bowl in 2022.
But we had enough.
But we had multiple different bottles that we were opening and trying, and we were like, yeah, let's pass. But
Yeah.
and you've done some damage to that bottle.
I opened it up, I think, during some kind of. I opened it up with a different friend. Not
You're
too.
allowed to have different friends? No, I'm just kidding.
You didn't hear me say that. No, yeah, I'm on the same page.
Your bourbon friend.
I think this is a good pour that I would recommend to somebody. And so I'm gonna go everyday player.
Yeah. We're both on the same page there. I am very surprised. I thought this was going to be a bench player for me. And I might take this over some of Beam's other offerings. Honestly, I think I might go over Little Book from this. And we're going to have more Beam reviews down the road here. We've got some distillers share to talk about. I'm part of the Barreled in Box program from Beam. If you haven't figured out what that is yet, it's a pretty cool thing. I know they don't ship to all states. I'm trying to get the box here. I'm talking.
He's reaching so far and trying to talk into the mic and reach as far as he can.
It's because there's a big box. It's called Barreled in Box by James Beam Distilling Company, because they've actually changed the name. It's not Jim Beam, it's James Beam. But we've got more stuff coming from them down the road. I really enjoy this pour. And for those of you just joining in, I mentioned it a little earlier. We have a rating scale. Hall of Famer right at the top. All-Star second in line. Everyday player is just one of those consistent players in your lineup, right? It's one of those that you'll always have a bottle on your shelf. You always want it there to share with friends, as Michael likes to talk about. Bench player is one of those that comes in and just mixes things up and designate for assignment. You're kicked off the team. And we both went with an everyday player. I like it enough that I'm probably going to kill this later, but I want to put the rating in the review on picks. I'm going to start doing that a lot more.
I noticed you take a good amount of notes during our reviews.
Yeah. I try to take as much notes when I do reviews, and I also want to have the color for it. So we've done multiple different reviews today. I've kept parts of the samples so I can go back. The Picks app is a really good app. We're not sponsored by them yet, hopefully. But I love to go there because maybe you're looking for like a note in the Picks app that you just can't, like you've tasted or you smell it. You just can't put like a finger on it. You can't
put your finger. Yep, exactly.
And they've got them listed out there. Maybe not all of them. I wish there was like an add option, right? Like, okay, I would like to add this note. That would be my one critique for Picks if you're listening. But I love the app there because you can, and it'll match you up with likewise pairings or different bottles that may fit your palate, and which is really cool. I get emails every once in a while, maybe once a week, twice a month, something like that, matching you with a bottle that you may never have thought that you matched up with. So
right.
I'm going to be better about doing that and posting that. So go check out us on Picks as well. I know Michael's got his own handle there. I'm on Picks. Just search Brandon Spinner. I think it's whiskey_weather there as well. A really great app and good stuff from James Beam Distilling Company with his Baker's 7.
Yeah, you've had all 4 products. I'm assuming you've had Knob Creek, of course.
I have had plenty of Knob Creek.
They're all great. They're all different levels of experience, whatever you want. Basil Hayden is great on the rocks. It's one of the few I'd recommend on the rocks. Everything else I recommend neat.
And I don't mind Basil Hayden's neat either, but I do. There's a lot. It's funny because you're proofing it down with the rocks theoretically. And there's more flavors to it, I think, when you put it on the rocks. But Booker's, I've downed bottles of Booker's. I've got a couple of bottles up there still. Little Book, we both benched that one in a previous podcast. But go check out our previous podcast to see where we reviewed and rated some different bourbons and different whiskeys. Again, this is Barrels and Barrels, a Bourbon and Baseball podcast. Thank you for joining. Michael and I just reviewed Baker's 7, and to be honest, I'm surprised. I'm honestly surprised.
Yeah, definitely. My Pix handle is at Mr. Burns.
At Mr. Burns, like the Simpsons.
Yes, good.
Yes.
Yes.
So that might be who we call you, is Mr. Burns when you give a DFA out.
Let's
Mr.
go.
Burns showed up today. But yeah, go check out the Pix app. No free ads, but they're not a sponsor yet. Hint, hint. For those of you at Pix, we'd love to pair up and
Partner up.
become
Yep.
partners and help you grow and help us grow. As far as helping us grow, we'd love for you to join us on Instagram, on Facebook. That is at Barrels and Barrels, at Barrels and Barrels Pod. YouTube at Barrels and Barrels Pod, and Twitter at Barrels and Barrels. All of that has the middle initial of N. That's Barrels and Barrels. Email us. We've got T-shirts. Michael's got a hat on. We're going to try to do a hat pre-order. If we get enough interest in that, we'll get some hats out. So head on over. Email us, barrelsandbarrels@gmail.com. We're on Apple. We're on Spotify, Stitcher, Amazon, Google, and iHeartRadio podcasts. Please rate us and review us just like we rated and reviewed this whiskey as an everyday player in both of our lineups. Cheers, Michael, to that. Cheers to our listeners, to our viewers, our friends, our family. Do you have any last words for our friends, families, and listeners?
Let me see what I can dig up here. Here are my notes. Oh, here it is. Let's go.